Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast. Today, we are finishing The Red Pyramid. We started covering this book maybe a year ago or something. We've had several detours, but we're here. So much happens in these final two chapters. Stick around.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the US. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Welcome back to Seaweed Brain, live from the Duat one last time for now, until whatever it is that we return to Throne of Fire at an undetermined, undisclosed date. It's Carter and I, as always, my name is Erica, joined by, not as always, Robert from TheDamMemePage, special guest appearance. Hi, Robert.
Hello. How are you?
Good. I wanted to shout out a special experience I had with Robert yesterday, in which I knew vaguely that Robert was running a book club in our Patreon Discord. And then yesterday I got to see it with my own eyes. And it was extremely impressive. I was like, Robert, this is so organized. What is going on? You opened up the meeting. You were like, welcome everyone to the Seaweed Brain Patreon Discord book club, of which we have met several times. And I was like, this is nuts. The Discord is sentient, has its own book club, and it's thanks to Robert. And it was so special. So Robert is not only the Damn Meme Page podcaster of many podcasts, but also president of the Seaweed Brain Patreon Discord server book club. And we're lucky to have you here today.
As the Discord puts it, I am mother. My name on the Discord is the damn mom page.
Well, and all of these people, all of our patrons were like, mother, Robert is mother. And I was like, it's true. I'm witnessing the mothering of Robert in front of my very eyes. And you were like, I'm just a single mom who works 2 jobs. And I actually think that applies to you more than it applies to Carter and I. Like the way that you run the meme page, do your own podcasts, somehow are in charge of the entire Seaweed Brain Discord server is nuts. But thank you for doing all of that. Unpaid labor, I might add.
I am paid in friendship.
That's not fair. Anyway, if you want me to pay Robert, you should sign up for our Patreon so I have enough money to one day pay Robert. That's patreon.com/seaweedbrain. It's a Song of Achilles book club going on right now. I'm hearing the next thing they're covering is either Sunrise on the Reaping or Circe, since more on that later might be being covered by us too.
We love good foreshadowing.
We have a lot to get to. These 2 chapters could have been 4 chapters. But before we do that, again, I want to thank our sustaining patrons, Izzy, James, Cameron, Justin, and Dayton. And as always, you can find us at patreon.com/seaweedbrain. Where did we last leave off, Carter?
We last left off with both Carter and Sadie and their separate POVs gearing up for this final stage of the fight against Set. Carter was powering up, physically fighting him, looking at what the House of Life was able to do, or perhaps more accurately not do in the fight. Sadie was on the inside of the pyramid, getting Set's secret name, trying to make sure that nobody dies, also activating her high-powered mind meld sync and going up to join. And that is where we find everybody. After they've both done their respective power-ups, re-teaming up at the top of the pyramid, the cliffhanger we've gotten is that Sadie is about to say something so shocking and bizarre and life-changing to totally change the course of everything. And she does.
Chapter 40, I ruin a rather important spell, Sadie's perspective. We open with her discussing, now that she is in her flow state, fully fused with Isis, the way that she is able to see the regular world and the Duat at the same time, like a crocodile with her eyes halfway in and halfway out of the water. This was very sickening. I think we all probably enjoyed this description a lot, right?
Yeah.
I reference this a lot
You referenced it
life.
the other day, and I was like, what are you talking about? Because I hadn't gotten to this chapter yet, but now I get it.
I think it's a super compelling metaphor for like a lot of things. This eyes on the waterline, but also in general, I don't know. I think in a post-multiverse paled universe, this idea of seeing multiple versions of entities and places kind of juxtaposed on each other simultaneously is something that is, I think, useful to have like a language and a metaphor and a thing to help you to wrap yourself around.
Would you like to read that simile, Carter?
Would I like to? Sure. Like a crocodile with eyes at water level, seeing both below and above the surface, I saw the duat entwined with the regular world. The demons had fiery souls in the duat that made them look like an army of birthday candles. Where Carter stood in the mortal world, a falcon warrior stood in the duat, not an avatar, but the real thing, with feathered head, sharp blood-stained beak, and gleaming black eyes. She goes on. She describes Sad and some other stuff, but like I think you're getting a sense for what she's seeing and why this might be a compelling reference.
For me, it opens up the question of, okay, so this is what it's like to see into the godly world, so to speak, the duat. So this is like the Egyptian mythology version. Is like, this now brings to mind, like, okay, what do people over in Percy Jackson world, like Rachel and Sally Jackson, what do they see? Like, how does this sort of also translate to the same idea of like seeing through the mist?
Through the mist. Yeah, can Sally Jackson see directly the greasy, slimy, black tar set animal instead of the fiery thing that's being portrayed?
I almost feel as though the metaphors are not irreconcilable, but contradictory in a lot of ways, where like the people with advanced sight abilities that are described in the Greek books are people who have extra clarity. They're breaking through these sort of illusory layers to get to a truth. Whereas what we're presented here is a more postmodern idea of like, there's no fundamental truth that we're seeing. We're like trying to reconcile all of these simultaneous facets and identities and versions of everyone and everything.
Right.
I like that.
I also just briefly, I went through several thoughts in my brain where it's like, there's that scene in Trials of Apollo where Rachel can see some stuff happening off in the distance of the Brooklyn house. Mm-hmm. And then I was very quickly going to be like, wait, did you guys read Trials of Apollo? Completely forgetting you guys read Trials of Apollo. And that reminded me of the time that PGO Twitter struggles like got both of you good. Because that was something that Erica had tweeted, being like, wait, I completely forgot that we read Trials of Apollo while listing out all the seasons we've done.
Oh, yeah. I was like, this season of podcast, we read this season we did this. And then I skipped over the fact that we did the Trials of Apollo as well. Oopsie. I will also say in the Riordan verse, in which there is so much discussion of what it means to exist in two different worlds, I think this is maybe the most satisfying visual for the idea of duality and of the biracial aspect of this book and living in two worlds at once. The fact that she is actually seeing both at the same time while she herself is both herself and Isis. It's very good. Lots of duality to wrap us out in these last two chapters. But because we're in the desert for this fight, Sadie's like, let's take it to somewhere where Set's not going to be as powerful. And we're going to go to this important place in the United States. We have to go back to DC, to the Washington Monument, because obelisks.
Yeah. Sadie's come such a long way in her geographic appreciation of America. She really, there's no way for her to have had any, I guess, idea of the size and variety of America up until this point. And why should she have? But now she's like, no, okay, I'm not generically. Like the last time we were in DC, the whole gag was that she had no idea what states were. So she just said America, and then they kind of appeared there. Whereas now she's like, no, I know the names of cities. And I know that they are different from each other. I don't know if we should celebrate that, but it is a thing that's happened to her.
Yeah, especially in modern day America, celebrating the idea of like the grand power of America isn't exactly a good feeling anymore.
Yeah, well, I think the book gives us an in-universe explanation for the power-up that we get by switching from the deserts of Arizona to DC. That has to do with the sacred geometry, and there's a big obelisk, and it's not about necessarily the political systems or the country or the empire.
Quote, the default gateway for North America.
Yeah. It's making an appeal that is not textually or explicitly about the country and its history and its dominion. But it's still weird,
I want to choose that doesn't have anything to do with being the state capital and only has anything to do with
just
the shape of the obelisk.
It's still uncomfortable. And especially where Sadie is describing these flows of order, magic, power in her Duat vision, like flowing into different people and powering people back up, coming out of these different monuments. Especially given that this was how would you say, a cliffhanger from 2 chapters ago that Sadie was going to say something so wild, so bonkers, so revolutionary. And what she said was, we're going to go to DC. It's okay. It's a swamp. I don't know. Like, I get, like, the in-universe explanation makes sense. I didn't necessarily gag for this change in scenery.
Didn't you think she was going to show up and yell this secret name, and that was going to be the battle cry?
I was like, she's going to say the secret name. She's going to say some sort of new, like, all of the teasers have been her saying these different words of power that have been kind of shocking in their simplicity. Like when she says something like destroy or order, these invocations that are meant to get us to think more, I don't know, deeply, symbolically, metaphorically about, I don't know, and to engage the magic system more, to be like, what does it mean for there to be a word of power? What is the word that you might say that is like the anti-set? Maybe it's order, maybe it's respect. I thought she was going to gag us with one of those. Instead, she did a DC thing, which in its own way was a flex because of her whole, like, to me, the gag of it is that she's like, yeah, I know a mortal couldn't do this, but guess what? That's not me. A goddess of magic can. Anyway, we're in DC now. The pyramid is kind of rapidly crumbling and in pieces because of this shaky portal transfer, and also just because in general the power of order is stronger. And that brings us to this moment that we've been gearing up for such a long time, where it is actually time to begin reading from the book of Overcoming Set.
Who else completely forgot about the book? I totally forgot about the book. I forgot we had the book. I forgot we needed the book. Robert is raising their hand. I'm raising my hand. We got the book and we got the feather. All of the side quests have somehow now made sense.
I'm not gonna lie, I also kind of forgot about the feather, because I like, sure, yeah, there's always that underlying thing of like, oh yeah, Sadie can't lie or else the feather will like burn her up or whatever, but like it never really became a prominent problem again after like the Egyptian afterlife scene.
Yeah, I do feel like I was kind of expecting there to be a little more payoff on her trying to lie or being forced into uncomfortable social situations or something because of the feather. We get some of that here. When she literally remembers she's holding the feather in her hand, we see her try to lie and fail to do so. And that's a big part of what happens, but I do agree that we could have kind of forgotten about this, as much as we could have also kind of forgotten about the book itself, which, just to rewind back, the book we stole from Desjardins in Paris, way back before we even came to America. The feather we got in like New Orleans from Anubis. Secret name we just got, but that was like why we had to go to Texas and that whole situation. We have all the ingredients, reading the spell.
As we're doing it, Sadie hears the voice of her mother saying to her that something important is about to happen.
Specifically, she's saying, watch your enemy, which is a fascinating, not your average dead mom tagline.
No! Also a nearly direct Hunger Games quote. I really enjoyed this moment, just to go back to my making the Red Pyramid about Hunger Games mood. Remember who the real enemy is?
Hey, folks, now is a good time as any to read the Hunger Games.
Yeah, in that case, it's the government. But in this case, it's chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, in both cases, it's a reminder, you gotta, like, specifically the literal visual metaphor is like, you have to look up.
Yeah.
In both situations. At
Yeah.
magical force in the sky that is hard to see, but if you do a thing, it becomes temporarily visible.
Yeah, there we go. So
pyramid explodes. They essentially have him held, and it's like, hey, Set, we're gonna send you to the Duat. You're screwed now. Go home. And then we look up, we see this giant vision of something that looks like, I love how Sadie at first is like, she's trying to rationalize it in her brain. It's like some giant river looking force. Wait a minute, no, that's not a river, that's a giant snake.
Yes, I like that too, because the river gives life, but the snake is the opposite of that, right? The snake is chaos. But at the same time, they look the same. Duality. I also really like, of all our cultural references of like the ghosts of your parents standing beside you in the final battle, I like that there's actual like good advice in like a specific combat way that Sadie's mom is giving her right now. It's not just like, we love you, Sadie. We give you the power of our love to complete the secret name.
I don't know. It's like nice general life advice, but also very specifically targeted
Yeah.
but also much more vengeful than like,
yes.
I don't know, like
vengeful, powerful.
This character is in such danger of being like Emma Roberts under the white sheet on the beach, you know?
Dead wife montage.
Dead wife montage.
But she's not.
There are some times where we are really in the danger zone there, like in certain passages, I will say. But in this passage, we're not, because she, like, not everyone's mother is like, the best life advice I can give you is like, mind your ops. Like, you
exactly, she's fierce.
It's practical, it's conflictual. I'm very much in support of it.
And then speaking of duality, this whole book has been Carter and Sadie developing their siblingship, you know, a lot of it through trauma and necessity, but also being like, oh, hey, yeah, we are true, like we're true family, we're true siblings. But Sadie sort of stopping the spell just before it's over and looking over at Carter, and Carter giving this look of like, what are you doing? And she's sort of contemplating like, okay, what is the next thing that's going to happen? Because I see giant snake. I realize that I can't dispel Set, or else something bad will happen. Carter doesn't know that. Hell, even Set doesn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really struck me for a second how maybe not contemplating that, oh, Carter would, you know, attack me if I didn't use the feather correctly, but thinking like, Carter is expecting me to do something. We just suffered through this quest to get the feather, to get the book, to get the secret name. He's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? How do I explain this to him when he can't see it?
Yeah. It is true that it doesn't necessarily, like, it's hard to imagine what the counterfactual is for her in the situation. Like, she's not actually really sacrificing anything, but the twist of this moment being that instead of completing the spell, she's trying to show Carter something. She's communicating with them. She's getting everybody back on the same page by hurling up the feather of truth and temporarily illuminating Apophis, trying to form above them. It is pretty effective, and I had kind of forgotten this. This is not one of the more... It's not something that's sort of salient in the past times I've read the book. Like, I remember Apophis being there, but I don't remember this being framed as, like, bookend to the relationship for the siblings. And trying to, like, you know, find a good in-universe storytelling thing to say about, like, Sadie seeing things that Carter doesn't see, and how that affects the relationship, how that colors the plot, and I guess the metaphor of this site in certain ways.
There are two very excellent passages about the familial relationship. Carter looked at me, and for a moment I saw the doubt on his face. Horus would be urging him towards bloody vengeance. I was hesitating. This is what had turned Isis and Horus against each other before. I couldn't let it happen now. But more than that, in Carter's wary expression, I saw the way he used to look at me on our visiting days, when we were practically strangers, forced to spend time together, pretending we were a happy family because Dad expected it of us. I didn't want to go back to that. I wasn't pretending anymore. We were a family, and we had to work together.
Oh God, that's it's really a line that pulls at the heartstrings.
Yeah, I think the juxtaposition of using this to bring back in this story about the interaction between divinity and humanity, and trying to say that, like, it's because of their human hesitation and also their relationship that we're like being pulled gravitationally into this sort of repeating cycle story, but we're not falling into this trap and just doing the same thing that Horus and Isis instead have done every other time, works a lot for this. It feels inevitable that we were gonna do something else.
Sadie then says, Carter, look, and throws the feather of truth into the sky, breaking and ending the spell. And this is where we get the true reveal of what exactly was going on with Set not being our true enemy after all. Apophis is the true enemy, and Face of Horror is possessed the right word? Or I think we say, like, speaking with the voice of...
like, influence, maybe? I don't know. It is kind of funny to have this sort of, like... I mean, you have the character Face of Horror revealed to be sort of the last minute big bad, the last minute bad guy twist, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna stab you, Sadie, and then Carter just lunges a sword at him. Now he's done, and it's like, well, okay, bye, Face of Horror.
For now, he does big whoosh face mask, you know, kind of pull off type reveal. But it's not like Face of Horror himself is the incarnation.
Yeah, the reveal isn't like, oh, we were so well acquainted with our good friend Face of Horror. Face of Horror is like, for all intents and purposes, nameless demon who is just here to stand in for Apophis.
But he's still a demon who's being possessed, poor guy.
Okay.
I think we love Face of Horror just because Face of Horror was being possessed by the
Playful
voice
name.
of Apophis trying to escape from the duat.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I do feel like if we were to say what are some storytelling beats that Rick really leans into in a way that are not necessarily like, oh, this is a universal truth about humanity that I'm really interested in plumbing, but like this is a good reveal structure for a book series.
A structural narrative tool.
Yeah, the like, okay, in book 1 we are meeting a B villain and we'll spend the whole book dealing with him, and at the end of it we'll realize that actually this whole thing was just laying the groundwork for the A villain, who has kind of been there the whole time, but we're just getting warmed up for, and having them sort of like cow the B villain on their way in.
And that the A villain isn't even physically present. The A villain is merely using a physical lackey on the ground to communicate with us because, of course, they are trapped and chopped in a million pieces and stuck in the duat.
Why mess with a good plot structure, you know?
Right. I do wonder how many people, like Ridenverse fans, would understand if you walked up to them and said, Luke Castellan is Face of Horror, true or false, would understand that.
I think that it would be a good debate also, because Face of Horror is not, like, I would say false, because Face is like, he's gone. Referring to him as Face really cracks me up. Are you all familiar with a Whitney Houston interview where she is defending her historic position in the music industry, and she says something like, before all of that, there was Face and I, talking about Babyface, but just referring to him as Face, like it's his first name? That's us.
It's like when RuPaul said that Ben Platt was so good as Deer in Dear Evan Hansen. Oh, he was so good as Deer. I do think I want to put a pin in that debate question for when we eventually, in I don't know how many years from now, actually finish the Kane Chronicles and get to do like a Kane Chronicles rap party type virtual live show like we did for the Trials of Apollo. We can ask and set up a debate question like, is Luke Castellan Face of Horror? Discuss.
I do think the slightly more, I don't know, the potentially more generative question is set Ares, where I think there's like a more compelling case that you could make. And obviously there's a lot that we're going to have to find out in the next 2 books about whether or not it makes sense as an analogy. But I feel like that is a space that I'm curious about thinking through, because I don't know, the way that we end things, it's a very leading setup. I think that we are meant to believe at this point that Set is going to be like a major player, and that a lot of our energy is going to be figuring out what side he's going to be on in the future, and maintaining that relationship and keeping him in order. And every pantheon has one.
Troublesome uncle.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's very different, obviously, archetypally from an Ares and from a Loki, but like relationally, it is kind of the same idea of like, troublesome uncle, like person who, you know, is well, actually, Loki's not a good example because he famously is on
because Loki's actually
Ragnarok, but
the harbinger of Ragnarok. Yeah.
But like, you know, like somebody who's in the family, and like you're never quite sure if they're gonna try to kill everybody, but like Ratatosk,
the big scary squirrel that lives in the tree of life.
Maybe also not the best real analogy.
We'll think of it. Someone who's really good at Norse mythology, tell us who the Ares/Set of Norse mythology is, or if there isn't one. Carter says, "We've got your number now," which is a phrase I didn't know until a week ago.
Really?
I know, I had never heard it. And you know, when you hear, what is the word for that? When you hear something and then you start hearing it over and over again.
I do know what you're talking about.
I had that experience with this phrase.
Baader-Meinhof phenomenon.
There we go. It's the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon.
Also frequently referred to as the frequency illusion.
The frequency illusion. Yeah,
okay.
There we go. We've got your number now, Carter says, which roughly translates to, we've clocked your T, bitch. And we know where to find you. We know what's up. And we're going to keep you controlled.
We know your name. We know your address. We know your wife.
Yeah, we know your cell phone number and your area code. So
your social security number. You know, the Rickisms of like, hey, what does my quirky little guy say to sound cool and intimidating? And the best he's got is, we've got your number now.
Do you think it sounds Midwestern dadcore? Because I kind of don't. This is an idiom I use frequently.
I was going to say that the reason I put this line in the outline is because I thought this was a big moment for Carter. Actually kind of slaying, like with confidence and with non-embarrassing vocabulary, and like, you know, probably like standing in a power pose.
Yeah.
And there's a big moment for him.
And I do think it's true that it's not something that Julius would say.
Yes. Would Amos say it? We don't know. We don't actually know the real Amos, but I do think Amos would say it. We'll find out later.
We'll find out.
But we have to first go through, hey, I mean, it happens in every young boy's life. The girl you like turns to clay and dust.
The girl you like shatters into clay. That was rough.
That's rough, buddy.
That is rough, buddy. I did want to ask if you guys felt that there was a particular reason that it is Sadie's book. That we decided last week, Robert wouldn't have heard this episode yet, that Sadie is the main character of this book, period, and that's a good thing and that we love that. But I wonder is it because of ISIS? Is it because girl powers of, I don't know, like understanding things more deeply, that like Carter would not, like, why is it that Sadie has to do the spell, that it couldn't have been Carter who saw the truth, that like it was Sadie's mom speaking to Sadie, telling her to watch your enemy, and that Carter didn't experience any of that? Is he just not ready? Is it that his brain doesn't work the same way? Like, is this the same idea that like Carter's going to be Pharaoh and Sadie's meant for something else?
It kind of is in the text. Multiple time Carter says, like, skipping ahead a little bit, when they get rid of the godly power and the amulets keep tempting them, Carter multiple times is like, I'm not ready for this. He's consistently offered, like, hey, would you like to be the Pharaoh? I think it is a lot of Carter not being ready, and I think Sadie realizing more and accepting more that she has an important role to play in all this, and she's more accepting of where she's at now and how she can grow.
Do you think that it has to do in a way with Carter's confidence? That Sadie was kind of born at a level that Carter had to find his way to through the course of this book just to be at like her base level?
I think that is the most plausible, like, death of the author. What is the in-universe explanation of what's going on? It's a combination of that and like literally Isis is just that girl, and she is the cornerstone of Egyptian pantheons, and
that's what I was wondering. Is it just because Sadie has Isis on her side and Sadie is the one who connected with Isis that this is her job?
Like, when you split between combat magic / on the throne leadership versus magic and witchery and golden wings and machinations behind the throne, I think that's just tough, because one of those is fundamentally more interesting, more cool, more OP. Etc. Like, no shade to the combat magic. It's very nice. It's very cool. But like, is there any universe that we're going to be more curious about that than somebody who says words and causes mysterious explosions or reformations or, you know, I just feel like it wasn't.
I guess that is making sense to me, that there was never a world in which Carter had anything to do with the spell, because Sadie is the one who speaks spells and this had to be her. That's just her power set. I
do also feel like the not death of the author, like, let's poke around in there and guess why things ended up this way explanation is that I feel like Rick just likes her character more, or like understands
more. Favorite child.
Like, I think he has a stronger sense of who she is, how she would react to a strange, unexpected situation, how and why and when she's funny, and that those things translate into her having more cool stuff happen in her sections because he believes he can write it better.
Right.
That's all speculation.
That's a reasonable statement, though. I understand what you're saying, that she's just a little bit that much more characterized.
More interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sadie being cooler, the most painful part about this Zia breaking into pieces of clay thing for me was that Carter has no idea what's going on, and Sadie knows exactly what's going on.
That was wild.
Yeah, she.
Can you imagine?
I don't know. I guess the immediate parallel would be, like, to me, how during the snap in the Marvel movies, like, people just start turning to dust and you're like, what the hell is happening? No one knows until later. So, you know, yeah, seeing the girl you like turn into clay and crack up in dust is not fun. And Sadie, can we maybe have a second to be like, I mean, she does tell him, like, hey, Carter, she was a Shopti. And Carter has this look of, like, bewilderment on his face, like, oh my God, I never connected the dots.
Oh, it's so sad for him. And meanwhile, Sadie is like, oh, I shouldn't say this out loud, but, quote, I was too afraid to raise the real question. If Zia had been a Shopti all this time, had we ever known her at all? The real Zia had never gotten close to us. She had never discovered what an incredibly amazing person I was. God forbid, she might not even like Carter. Because it's true. Sadie just lost her big sister, you know, her friend.
Rick does, I feel, take us off the ledge here and not really. I mean, he doesn't clear up all the ambiguity, but the last blue light, when Carter is like, okay, I finally connected the dots, let me bring what I have seen and have thought about to bear in this conversation, he seems to have this theory that I feel like we're mostly on board with, that like Shabti Zia has been transmitting one-way signals from her to, I don't know what to call her, Audi Zia. I don't want to say real Zia, but like
Yeah.
surviving Zia, is that too, you know,
The
Flesh
main
Zia?
Zia,
Flesh
Flesh
Zia?
Zia. Yeah.
carbon based? No. Clay is sometimes carbon. Like
Blood Zia.
organic Zia, maybe.
Organic. Well, clay.
I love how we're trying to like
What is a
delicately
non-offensive
figure out-
way to refer to this character
Least
and not
meat
diminish
sack
the
Zia?
humanhood of Shabti Zia?
Meat
Oh
flesh
my-
Zia?
Meat
Meat
flesh.
sack.
Shabti Zia
Rotting
was real to
flesh.
me. She was real to me. Yeah, one-way signal to
Yeah.
the text essentially does say like the real Zia. So I guess
Yeah.
we can go by what
Which
the text
doesn't
says.
necessarily answer all these questions. Like, mind you, Flesh Zia could be seeing Shabti Zia have all these experiences and be like, girl, what are you doing? That's not what I would have
Yes.
done there at all. Actually, like, I'm getting this information about Carter, but I think he's actually a loser. It doesn't totally obviate those possibilities, but I think it dials us back a little bit. That, like, it's going to be weird, but, like, it's not... There's, like, I think a pretty low ceiling on how different, how weird, how uncomfortable I think that eventual interaction is going to be, not if and when. Wait, I mean, at some point, like, we're going to have to meet her, right? Flesh Zia.
I hate that we don't know. That's the worst cliffhanger of this book to me, is that we don't know how meat sack Zia is going to feel about Carter.
Shabti Zia seems really convinced that she's going to be into it. Like, her
Yeah.
last words are saying, like, basically, you got to ask Audi Meat Sack Zia out.
She'll say yes, dude. It's totally what's gonna happen.
But I don't know. She knows, because it seems again like it's a one-way signal.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
we don't see any blue orbs go into Shabti Zia ever.
No. I mean, Iskander really, this was like his last proper act before he just, peaced out and died, where he like put all of his energy into hiding Meat Sack Zia and having Shabti Zia be like so real. Because like even Thoth had pointed out earlier when we were in his chapters that Shabtis are very good stunt doubles. And that's sort of what Shabti Zia has been. And now that Shabti Zia's power, by the way, the reason she's breaking apart now is probably for a bunch of reasons, but it's also because she used a lot of, if not all of her remaining power to protect herself and Amos, who is also a current open can of worms that we have to discuss in a second.
Maybe should we move on from meat sack versus iron deficient versus iron filled Zia? Because I'm not claiming that meat sack Zia is definitively iron deficient, but she does kind of have that energy about her because she's a busy girl. She doesn't have time to eat all of her spinach. And then the other Zia is made of clay, right? So lots of iron.
Oh my god, yeah, but
confirm or deny. What do you think?
Hey, so before we
I don't
leave,
think Meat Sack Zia is iron deficient. I'm gonna go ahead and actually dispute that.
You're just trying to be mean to me.
This is going to be the true division of the Seaweed Brain fandom. Is Zia iron deficient? Yes
iron
or
deficient.
No? That needs to be the poll of the episode.
I know my fellow iron deficient girls are going to say she's iron deficient.
Yeah, Erica's trying to claim her for the iron deficient community, and I just don't feel like the evidence is there.
We can't all blanch that much spinach in a day, Carter.
Girl,
some of us still don't understand what blanching means.
Y'all, there's this girl on TikTok who's just like, oh yeah, I have iron deficiency. I think it's because of that. To solve it, she just like grabs a handful of spinach like in the morning and just chomps it down raw. And she's like, that's it. I got my iron for the day. I'm good. And it's just...
No, that's the thing. Raw, it won't give you enough. You have to blanch that shit or it's too much chewing.
Oh my God. Hey.
Sorry, let me drink my green juice.
Hell yeah, green juice. So before we can leave, hey, you know what? We got one last run-in with everyone's favorite classic cartoon villain, Desjardins.
Everybody twist your fake cartoon mustache. If you're driving or if you're doing laundry right now while listening to this podcast, twist your little mustache and go, oh.
Before Desjardins even speaks, the concept to me of all the magicians getting teleported to DC, getting knocked out, and then barely regaining consciousness only for a pyramid to explode on them, knocking them back out again is so funny to me. It's honestly the funniest part of this section.
Useless. Literally just along for the ride. So embarrassing.
So this little section is just Jardins trying to maintain the order of the House of Life, trying to be like, you are a bunch of cuckoo banana kids who are channeling gods, crazy with power. You're gonna destroy everything. Meanwhile, Sadie and Carter are like, okay, we'll just give up godly power. Boom, done. Hey,
Yielding.
we yielding. Hey, Seaweed Brain merch.
Thank you.
Hey, we have to join together to defeat Apophis. And just Jarden's just sort of like, you know what? A lot of destruction, a lot of fighting today. You guys can go home. We still hate you. You ever cross our path again, let that threat hang in the air.
But he also only does that after Sadie flexes on him and is like, while she still has Isis within her, she gives a little bit of, hey, I know that your little ant brain, reptile brain can only comprehend somebody being able to beat you up. So let me just remind you that right now I can beat you up. How about that? You were useless. And then they relinquish the power and they're like, okay. Do you get it now? How do you understand why you have no qualifications to speak on anything because you literally did nothing? You just tumbled down the side of a pyramid not 5 minutes ago, and we all saw you.
We all just saw you wake up from your little dirt nap, literally.
Desjardins is the anti-yielding.
Yeah. It really is true. Just trying to do the most all the time and
Give
not
me the power. I'm the next
place.
in line. Give me the power. I'm the next in line. I'm going to use my biggest, baddest spell right now, immediately. That man has no yielding. He doesn't understand.
Very embarrassing.
Like many men.
Yeah.
This conversation, though, has my favorite Carter Sadie moment. The second quote that I alluded to earlier. Quote, then I faced my brother. You know what we have to do? Understanding passed between us. I was surprised how easily I could read him. I thought it might be the influence of the gods, but then I realized it was because we were both Cain's, brother and sister, and Carter, God help me, was also my friend. It's not just the power of friendship, it's the power of siblingship. That this, of all the arcs we've been witnessing throughout this book of Carter's confidence and Sadie learning the states and the geography of America and Carter and Zia's relationship, this is the best. And this is the heart of the story. To me, like this is, I mean, we get a lot of gorgeous wrap up in the next chapter, but to me, this is the wrap up. This is the little bow. They started out complete strangers, and this has been a story of watching them become real siblings and real friends, and it's happened.
Yeah, it is the appropriate culmination of everything.
The outline says, yielding strikes again. Sadie turns down more power because she knows she's not ready for it. Drop our sticker link. Vienna by Billy Joel. Snail Girl Spring, which if everyone isn't familiar with, means staying moisturized, moving slow, eating vegetables, and spending time in nature. Snail Girl Spring. And I just think that women, because I do just think that women, and I think that that's the actual answer to why Sadie is the main character of this book.
I recently found an edit on my computer of the scene from Little Women, except instead of saying, I just think that women, Saoirse Ronan says, I just think that, and then it's like crossed out, and it says something like, a gender diverse array of non-men or something. I think I made it in 2020 probably when I was at home waiting for Seaweed Brain to begin.
You made it? Can we put it on a shirt? Do you think that would work with parody law?
Let's not get sued by Fox, Searchlight, or whatever imprint of an
Critical
imprint
wig.
produced Little Women. Anyway, Desjardins is gone.
Desjardins is gone, and quote, Carter's first girlfriend lay at his feet in a pile of pottery shards. Whoa, 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 whoa. Girlfriend? Who used that language? I don't think so.
It's the teasing out of Sadie's brain. It's just
it
like,
is.
yeah, you know, oh, Carter's
girlfriend.
Carter's girlfriend, you know. It's just she's just teasing him.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no goodbye to the dad. Oof. I put in parentheses, Dead Dad Club isn't a fun club to be in.
Yeah, Carter mentioning that he, in addition to having no idea what was going on with Shopti Zia, Sadie had that whole dead family member montage, which Anubis led her through. And we had mentioned, I think, last week how terrible it is that Carter didn't have the opportunity to speak to their father.
Yes, he doesn't know what happened. He's not at peace with anything. That that's all the action for this book. Everything else that happens is appropriate emotional closing, but as far as have we defeated the enemy, it's a Riordan Bush book. Sort of, kinda. We'll be seeing him next time in a more emotionally mature spot for him, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah. And I'm really interested. I'm not convinced that I ever read past this book because I don't even think I have The Throne of Fire in my childhood bedroom. I'm not positive. Maybe I do. But I'm really interested to see where we go with this set rehabilitation thing because it's not something that we really explored in Percy Jackson, unless maybe you want to think about like Dionysus kind of, but not really. Like, we didn't get that journey with Ares, so I'm excited to see where that goes.
Rehabilitation might be a strong word, but like he's going to be
Mhm.
around. We're going to have to figure out what the right relationship with him is going to be for us to accomplish what we have to accomplish.
Speaking of rehabilitation, though, Amos is not looking so good. Sadie has this moment in her narration where she says something along the lines of like, all of a sudden, like the exhaustion sets in. I realize everything that we've just been through, like everything that has happened, the grief. And then all of a sudden, Amos starts to stir and she's like, okay, we're not safe yet. We need to go somewhere safe. Let's turn him into something small so that we can go home. And then let's take a little ad break and we'll come back.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
Chapter 41, we stop the recording for now. We're finishing in Carter's perspective for our epilogue of sorts, and we're back at the Brooklyn house. Domesticity strikes again, or maybe for the first time, at least for the first time since we were in the Brooklyn house the first time in this book. Khufu is making us pillow beds in the living room, which made me want to cry. Made me think a little bit about Wrath of the Triple Goddess when Percy, Annabeth, and Grover are making themselves like essentially like pillow fort in the living room. There's something very sweet about that. And they're rebuilding the house after all the damage that has been done to it. They're doing it without magic, which is really exciting.
Well, they're doing it with magic, but they're doing it without
the gods.
Human magic. Yeah, they're not being hosted anymore. Everything is harder.
They're doing it with the craft.
They're doing it with the craft. Exactly. This is the part where I was like, I understand why this can't be longer. Plot reasons, pacing reasons, attention span reasons, but I was very like the little bit of text we got in this I think is such a generative imagination jumping off point. I'm so curious about what it would have been like for them processing things and living together actually for the first time in a way that is not like in the back of a car half asleep between people trying to kill them, learning magic without gods in them for the first time. There's a lot going on.
A lot of the like meat I think for this part is that they, at least for Carter specifically is like, I'm doing a lot of the, what he refers to like more of the grunt work, where he's more or less putting together the main structures, and then Sadie's coming in and doing the finer touches. But that being said, she also fixes her entire room and then knocks out for 12 hours. Been there, done that. One of the things that I really like is that there's a couple of things I really like is that one of the things that is a quick throwaway and you miss it line is when Carter is talking about like, oh yeah, I've been going to sleep on my magical pillow that prevents my ba from going around, but it still goes around. I think I even heard Zia at some point. Anyway, moving on.
Oh, you think you heard a voice in a dream? You probably did. At least in the Riordan verse.
Yes.
That feels huge to me that Zia, because now Shopti Zia's gone. So that sounds like real flesh meat sack Zia is trying to communicate with Carter.
She's trying to get found. The person who hid her away is dead. She's supposed to let her out.
Wasn't it Nephthys who's saying that like she's in a sleeping host right now? I believe that's what she says, right?
Yeah.
She's like in a coma somewhere, right?
Yeah, so it stands to reason that Carter will be able to hear her in his dreams.
Good point.
I'm now being reminded of the Hypnos kids and Nico being able to communicate with each other through dreams, because like dreams and death run concurrent in that book series somewhat. Which also, hey, fun transition from Carter hearing Zia in his sleep. We also get to go back to the Egyptian afterlife. Woo! Yeah. Sleep and death are connected.
Yes. This is important for Sadie.
This is important for Sadie, and we're going to get in Carter's perspective, and it's so funny to watch Carter watch Sadie, knowing what we know about Sadie and what's going on in her head, and Carter has no idea what's going on. Ooh, Anubis is here.
Carter meets Anubis for the first time, and he says, quote, he was lean and tall with messed up hair and pale skin, and his clothes were all black as if he'd mugged a priest or something. I cackled out loud at how badly Carter does not gag and does not understand what is going on? Messed up hair.
As if he mugged a priest. It's amazing.
This is anti-same. This is like me reading this being like, who are you? What is going on? Is this a human experience that's available to you? Like, what?
You're seeing a boy with messy black hair, wearing all black clothes, and you're like, he mugged a priest. Couldn't it be me? Carter's stronger than me. I'll say that.
Oh, absolutely. But I will say this, I guess, builds towards like, there's the fun little headcanon that Percy and Annabeth are bi. And it's mainly because in their POVs, they often describe people of the same sex as attractive, handsome, whatever. Like, even if they're describing villains. Carter, none of that. Carter's like, he's just a guy. Like, Sadie would...
I wasn't sure if I should say it, because Carter, like, it's not too late for him. He hasn't foreclosed all the options in his life. He could just have weird, bad taste. And that's also, possible for bisexuals as well.
Absolutely.
So true. So true. Bisexuals can have weird bad taste.
Yeah, we don't know him like that yet, but we'll watch the space, I guess.
It is really funny to me later, like after this whole, like skipping ahead a second, after the whole scene, Sadie trying to be like Carter, like, hey, so he was hot, right? He was a hot dude, not a dog face. And Carter's like, he was a dude, correct?
That, on the other hand, that was the realest anyone has ever been. When Sadie specifically is like, did you see him? What did you think about him? Was he... do you think he was attractive? And the person says he was okay. And she's like, yes. Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right to the box.
Carter, funny of you to say that, because that's a conversation I've had with you more times than I can count. How dare you be the one to say that that's relatable?
Oh,
You're
man.
Off your rocker for that.
Carter's going...
Me going, oh my God, and Carter going, that was a person that breathes.
Sometimes
not even that.
Bullying Erica aside, so we are now in we're in the afterlife because, hey, Dad, it was part of the plan the whole time for him to die. Now he's Osiris. Yes. How do we feel about this?
Duality, regeneration.
Many aspects of this were wild. Mostly, I kept getting stuck on where I think they live, because they give a description of a house that they all live together as a family in Los Angeles on a hill overlooking the beach. For those of you who don't know that much about LA geography, most of Los Angeles is a single flat plain.
Santa Monica, maybe?
I feel like the options are very restricted. It would have to be like Palisades or, I guess Westwood or something.
Palisades if they were really rich.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe. For all of these places, I'm like, I don't see that for you on assistant professor salaries, if that.
Yeah, but also Ruby's rich, right? Like, Ruby comes from money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also magic. I guess they can make it work.
When I go to California, I'll be sure to scout for like where a hill overlooking the beach would probably be.
Yeah. You'll see like one hill, and then it'll have to have that.
It'll have to have been that. I do love, so like we get both of their parents, because also, hey, Osiris, Julius being Osiris, hey, that comes with, some benefits. Look at that. Here's your mom. And I do love how, hey, this is the first time Carter's seen his mom in however long it's been. And she's instantly like, oh my God, you're so grown up. Oh, I bet you're going to start shaving soon, and you're starting to talk to girls. And she's embarrassing him. And I love that so much.
I thought this reunion scene was so special, because we're dealing with the grief of having lost Julius on top of never really knowing our mom for Sadie, or having like very like fragmented memories of our mom for Carter. And then also getting to see our father and know that there's like a way in which he is alive, and a way in which there's a way for us to communicate with him. And then also seeing him reunite with our mom, but then also seeing our mom get to know her kids for the first time. Like that also really struck a deep emotional chord especially when she starts talking to Sadie, and Sadie's like, oh my God, you're my mom. And they like start immediately clicking and sharing all of this stuff. And she gets to meet her children for the first time. I don't know if that would have registered to me when I was a kid, or if it's because I am old now, that was just like an equally special part about this moment on both sides.
There's so much going on. This is also like, we were talking earlier about how Carter never got his closure. He never had the moment with Dad. This is the first time he's putting everything together and being like, from the beginning, from the jump, the plan was always for Julius to die. Like, going into the British Museum, that was the intention. And
rough.
Yeah. This was one of the few moments where I really felt the fleshed out fullness of Carter's character. Not one of the few moments. I feel like there's sometimes where it's a little slight, but this is one where like you really get this strong. It really jumps out how mad he is and how specific his circumstances are in this moment.
Yeah, like his father's his sole parental figure. He treats his father's word like God, and then to find out that his father was lying to him by omission, not telling him that his plan was to die all along.
Yeah, and for his father to be like unapologetic but still loving and kind of just laugh while Carter is
suffering,
very upset, yelling at him, pouring it all out there.
I will point out that Julius like doesn't ever particularly like ask for forgiveness. He's like, he realizes the hurt this is giving his children, but he also realizes the grander purpose he needed to help out, and that he would be more help in this position than he would be if he were still alive, being a magician, just running around with Carter and Sadie.
And it's appropriate characterization. I 100% believe that this is the way that this scene should be written. These are the reactions that it makes the most sense for everyone to have, given what we know about them up until this point. He's still wrong for it. We
Julius
is so like, I don't know. I kind of respect him, but he's so deeply, I think, unlikable and unpersonable, and he has these reactions that are just so disconnected from the actual material of relationships, where like something can be the right decision and it still sometimes has to be something that, like, these are your kids. You should still apologize. You should feel bad that this is what it came to, even if you do it anyway because it's the correct decision for you.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not his character to understand that, or to, understand informality, or wearing clothes that don't have buttons in them. But like, this is where we find ourselves.
He does seem a little bit like a guy who really wanted to get his wife back.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a sole motivator for some of these things that put his children's well-being in danger, but
And that's also real. That is how some people are.
It worked out.
Anyway, we get a handoff from him. He gives us the jet, the symbol of Osiris, a spine, which I do appreciate. I feel like this is high-key this is great. Like, the idea of Osiris' spine being the symbol for rebirth, I think, is phenomenal. And Phoenixes, you're nothing. Why does it make sense for you to burn up in flames and come back from the ashes? That's nothing. The spine of a dead person being a literal vector for regrowth, that's a rich metaphor. Let's focus on that. We got it. It's going to matter later on in this chapter. And it's time for us to pop out and have a good audience with the gods, but not first, before Anubis does a little bit more flirting. He is...
Anubis!
He's like smoother this time around. He's been like preparing himself.
Yeah, because he's in front of the elders, He feels a lot older in this chapter than he felt the last time we saw him, which I don't necessarily like, given the flirting that is about to take place. He felt a lot to me like older cousin in this section.
He's a little too on his game. He's a little too with it. He's not getting
little too with
enough.
it, little too on the side of the parents.
Yeah.
It's not particularly giving, these are two people of like, exactly. They were coming into the flirtation equally. Like, I don't know. It's not necessarily reading old to me as much as it's reading like prepared, and I'm uncomfortable. Let's leave it at that. I don't know.
It's reading I Know Your Dad, which I don't like.
Yeah. I think it's effective, but I'm uncomfortable.
That being said, Sadie does kind of flip that idea on its head, and the last thing she says to him is like, look after my parents.
Which again, I don't know about that. Great, but like not if you're gonna be flirting. His
specific line is, it's been ... stimulating. That was too much.
And she repeats that to herself. She repeats that. First, she repeats the line about your sharp tongue is going to get me. And she's like, sharp tongue, yeah. And then now she's like, stimulating.
Too much. Let's recalibrate a bit.
Being a 12-year-old girl is so hard. My favorite thing about this chapter is Carter witnessing Sadie mumbling her to herself, like the things that he has said back to herself, and like skipping away. Like, she's just a girl.
Anyway, it's time for us to have an audience with the gods. I felt like this was weird, to be totally honest. This didn't feel super climactic to me after leaving our parents, who are also gods, also restoring something.
Like this should have come before that.
Yeah. I guess we kind of are supposed to. Yeah, we're supposed to have a close relationship with Horus and Isis that should give this a payoff, but the nature of that relationship is so weird and so pseudo antagonistic, and we don't have conversations with him. We just kind of are them sometimes, and like it doesn't make for this reunion to be really, I think, emotionally satisfying, perhaps,
Right.
in the same
Just a tag
rich,
on.
familiar way. We do see Horus ascend a throne in heaven without anybody having to die, and we keep it pushing. Apparently the gods are going to leave a gift for us tomorrow. That just about brings us back. Maybe we're back at the Brooklyn house. Carter starts wearing like clothes from the century. That's wild. Should we unpack that?
Growth.
Honestly, yeah.
I don't know if I would want to use the term as linear as growth, because like it's different. He's like growing away from Julius, which I think is a good thing.
That's what I was going to say. It's not about his growth so much it is about him letting go of his father and his father's expectations. And it almost feels to me like a little bit spiteful. Like, my father who lied to me and sacrificed himself. I don't need to dress like you anymore.
This isn't like an ending point. He's 14. He'll keep thinking about it. He's wearing what does it say? Reeboks, jeans, and a hoodie. And he also immediately after says, quote, "Dad would probably think I look like a gangster," but he keeps wearing it anyway.
Yeah.
Unpacking takes time.
I just want to say, because we addressed it earlier, the whole Sadie asking Carter what Anubis looks like, and her being like, yeah, that's right. He was a boy. He wasn't a slobbering dog-headed guy. Haha, stimulating, haha, and then like skips away. And Carter is like, my sister was strange. Have I mentioned she's strange? And I really liked that, because we've been so much in Sadie's perspective, and Sadie's been so girl bossy and so like confident and powerful and doing her magic witch thing, doing her magician thing. And then to get the reminder that she's just a weird little girl was very special to me, especially as she's entering this strange flirtationship with this death boy, because calling her strange, immediately what came to mind for me was I myself am strange and unusual from Beetlejuice, which is another little girl who's in love with death, you know?
Yeah.
This idea of being a strange little girl who communes with demons. It's very special.
It is.
And then the next thing we sort of have to go into, I mentioned this earlier, is the Amos of it all, is that Amos, having been forcibly controlled by Set, that does a number on you mentally. So up until this upcoming section of the chapter, Amos essentially for the entirety of the house being rebuilt has been quiet, has been secluded.
Non-responsive, PTSD, dissociative.
Yeah. And so on this day, we get like the gift of the gods. The gods like repaired everything. Boo. I did like the little montage of like Sadie and Carter slowly but surely rebuilding everything. And the gods were like, oh, we'll help. Snaps a finger, done.
I didn't love that. I was like, damn, let them do a thing. Let them learn and work with their house.
Let them grow into their power slowly by doing just a menial task like building their house again.
Yeah.
Carter's like, they haven't done enough in this book. Teach them a lesson.
I'm not saying teach them a lesson. I'm saying give them something else. And they do get something else afterwards.
Yeah, they do.
Showing up. That's the real gift. We do love her. But also, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Bast comes back, but it's because Amos is now going to the
first gnome.
The first gnome to seek help, to seek therapy. He's seeking some form of therapy, some form of healing that they will give him. And Sadie and Carter do voice some concern of like, hey, don't they hate us? Like, what are they going to do anything bad to you? And it's like, even if they did, they'll still offer help to someone who needs it. So, hey, we got that going for the House of Life.
That really was emotionally provocative. The idea that Amos has just been around the house, and then he, for the first time, this is like not only the first time he's said this many words, he uses magic again that morning. He shows up dressed up as he used to dress to the nines in like a cute suit and cute shoes, and his hair is fresh. And
it was his fashion this whole time.
It was his fashion this whole time. And we don't talk enough about the PTSD of all of these experiences that all these characters will have in the Riordanverse until the Son of the Star. But I will say, if we want more of that, go back to the Son of the Star. I just felt that this little taste of what it must be like to try to pick yourself up and go get help was very nice to see from an adult in the series.
Amos is off. Bast is back. We love to see her back. It almost, I think, runs afoul of the core rule of like, there must be something that is a permanent consequence that no one can return from, and it should be something like death.
Yeah.
she slays enough. She's a god. We'll allow it.
And in Egyptian mythology, within this magic system that we're talking about, would it make sense that she wouldn't come back? I don't know.
I do also love how just before she shows back up, Carter and Sadie are out loud addressing the fact that it's going to be very difficult for two children to traverse the world to find and recruit more magicians. Like, Percy Jackson could never. That boy was 12 going across America by himself.
But he had like Grover and Annabeth.
Yeah, he didn't have adult supervision, which is what Carter and Sadie clearly are like, yeah, we need that if we're going to do this.
Carter also remarks that like, even though everything is kind of like good now, he feels like something's missing.
Yeah.
And
really
you can
sweet.
interpret what that is. But then Bass shows back up. And so that's nice. Like, I don't know if that's the thing that was missing. If he feels like Zia is missing, I don't know. I can choose to believe it's Bast. Because when she shows up, he says, quote, 1,000 pounds of grief drop from my shoulders.
Yes.
They've been through a lot. Give them their aunt back.
We've had our healing. We've closed a lot of circles, but at this point, what is left for us to do is plan out the next steps for the children.
Sadie is not going back to London.
Yes.
Cheers for that.
The Fausts are
Snaps
still
for
not
that.
talking to Carter. Girl.
Honestly, better though than if they had like suddenly done a 180 and wanted to talk to him on the phone. I don't think that would have made sense because they weren't participating in any of this. They don't know what happened.
Yeah. Sadie's deciding to stay. This was really, I feel like this was a huge deal. Specifically watching Carter stress out about whether or not she's going to leave and sort of like preemptively be sad and anxious and also feel like he can't outright ask her to stay. But like there are all of these, the depth and complexity of emotion that is happening in this moment. And the like kind of question is like whether or not she's going to choose to keep cohabitating with him. This is the kind of conversation that we don't get to see about this like type of relationship. Like it's not that often that we see siblings ever wrestling with the question of like, how much am I going to like physically, materially invest in spending time with you versus spending time away with other people and another life that I've built for myself. I don't know. I just found this really special. Anyway, they do end up deciding to stay in the Brooklyn house together, keep working on stuff. And specifically, they have a new project, which is trying to find the other Blood of the Pharaoh's children. And this is the final payoff on the final question that we've had this whole time, which is, why is this book in third person? Why is it an audio recording? And it's because you, listener, are the person who found the tape that they've left in a half-duat locker at some school somewhere. Because you have to show up and join them in trying to reinvigorate the path of the gods.
Yes, it's this great bow, tying this bow at the end of this structural framing device that we've had and used throughout the entire book. It's also this call to action. It makes you feel like you want to go out into the world and help them out. And I was thinking that this felt really familiar. And then I went back and I read the last page of The Lightning Thief, and there's nothing like this at the end of The Lightning Thief. But it's actually the end of the last episode of season 1 of the TV show that felt very reminiscent of this to me. It almost felt like this was influential on that structure.
Yeah, I think so.
Where Percy says, like, hey, you might be a demigod too. Like, this might happen to you. You know, I'm not quoting the direct dialogue from the TV show. But it's a similar narrative coming back from the beginning of the show, ending with this call to action, this like protect yourself, like join us. Sickening. So great. As a little kid, oh, so exciting. And that's that.
And that's that. Congratulations, all. You'll finish the
Woo-hoo!
Red Pyramid.
Nobody thought we could do it. I didn't think we could do it, but we did it. We finished the Red Pyramid. Some final meditations I want to offer. We don't know when we'll be back to do the second book, probably like next summer. But before that, I want to know, at first when we were covering Red Pyramid, we were asking why people should read the Kane Chronicles. Now I want to know, how do you want to see the Kane Chronicles adapted? We knew that it was floating around at Netflix for a bit, and then it got kind of relinquished into limbo. How would you guys ideally like to see it adapted for screen? Robert, would you like to go first?
Going back to my roots of when the Percy Jackson show was first announced, I would not mind seeing either an animated movie or animated television series. I just feel like with especially these chapters, how descriptive they are, how much is going on. Yeah, sure, you can do something with animation and with the what's the name of the giant stage? The volume.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it'll look great and fine. I want to see a bunch of beautiful colors drawn on a paper, bouncing around in all these fun ways that only animation can do.
I think I'm going to co-sign that. I think animated is right. And specifically, there are like a lot of visual gags in these books. A lot of the like magic you can maybe do practically, but the like floating avatar fighter states. I just feel like animation is the right choice for that. For the juxtapositions of different visual appearances of gods and monsters and stuff, I think animation is the right medium for that, you know? Not to shade Moon Knight for trying to do it practically.
I was about to say Moon Knight. Moon Knight is beautiful in all of its CGI and the acting and what have you. I still think that King Chronicles should be an animated like cartoon.
Yeah, I have a
movie.
lot of respect for that project and still feel like I don't know if that is how I would like to see Egyptian deities depicted moving forward as like the optimal choice when you could, to your point, draw them, like fully just realize what the vision is mentally.
I think I'm also voting for animated series. There's something satisfying about the idea of having like a series of live action television series on Disney Plus for like the entirety of the Riordanverse. But for things to be in the same canon, they don't have to be in the same medium. So I think we should embrace a Clone Wars aspect. And
Disney knows that for things to be in the same canon, they don't have to be in the same medium. There's Star Wars, there's Marvel now. There's like, they've been doing this.
Yeah.
I think in my perfect world, we have live action 5 seasons of Percy Jackson, live action 1 movie per Heroes of Olympus book, animated Kane Chronicles series, and animated Magnus Chase series in a different animation style from the Kane Chronicles.
And the other reason why animation is tonally, I feel like they should be weird. All the Riordanverse books have a little bit of quirk to them, strangeness. These ones, I think really, you have to lean in. There has to be a strange, disorienting perspective here that makes everything feel off kilter. It's about magic. It's not about armies or swords or what have you.
You could animate the Duat differently than you animate, quote unquote, the surface world.
Yeah.
Different styles. Oh, what exciting. Well, we'll keep tabs on the Kane Chronicles progress. Carter and I are going to let y'all know what is upcoming for us. We will probably be taking a break next week, and I think what we'll do is release a brief episode talking about what this upcoming schedule is, so stay tuned for that. We will be heading into our Odyssey retelling summer. We need to think of a cuter name for that. Cersei Summer, maybe? And Sea of Monsters Summer.
Odyssey.
Yeah, we'll be diving into our Odyssey. Robert, go ahead and tell people where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, sure. You can find me on the internet at TheDamMemePage, damn spelled D-A-M, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube. I'm entering people enter their hot girl summer. I'm entering my hot YouTuber summer.
Come on.
Ooh.
I think I mentioned it on this podcast, and I mentioned it throughout. I've been like still secretly working on 20th anniversary Percy Jackson video essay for, hey, Lightning Thief came out 20 years ago. Where does the time go? And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to California sometime this month, if even for a day, just to record at Santa Monica Pier. So, I'm committed. Should I be spending the money irresponsibly? No. Will I anyways? Sure, why not? And then if you want to hear me in a podcast space, you can listen to my podcast. It's called The Bits. I co-host it with my friend Charlie. We talk about Steven Universe because that is also a show that has long since come out. It's over 10 years. So, again, where does time go? I recommend that if you have never watched Steven Universe, maybe skip out until you watch the entire thing, because we do spoil the big twists in the first couple of episodes.
That's where you can find Robert, aka TheDamMemePage, aka TheDamMemePage on the CV Brain Patreon Discord server. We will see y'all next week. And in the meantime, I need y'all to start picking up your copies of Cersei, checking them out on Libby, downloading those audiobooks. Stick around. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.